so much more than I was expecting to. Freaking jump scared me, Daisy Jones in the Six, but if it was horror. Hey friends, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a very special horror-themed reading vlog, because today I'm going to be trying to read 5 horror books in order to get a bingo. So there's this lovely creator named Sarah over from the channel WickedReading, and every single year she has these horror bingo boards that she does, and it's a year-long reading challenge. I've never been able to participate before, but I decided this year it would be really fun for me to try and at least get a bingo on this board. I will have her announcement video and her channel linked down below, but I do think if you like reading horror, I do think you would really like her channel because a lot of her videos are related to horror books. But I saw this board that she recently put out for this year, and I thought it looked so much fun. And I mean, even though this is a year-long challenge, like you have an entire year from October to the next October to complete this board, but I thought it would be fun to try and knock out 5 of the prompts on this board in this vlog with you. And you know, who knows, if you do enjoy this type of a video, I could always make a round 2 trying to get another bingo with a different line on this board. But in today's video, we're gonna be focused on the first line down on the left side, because those were the ones that were calling my name the most and the ones that I was most easily able to fit books on my TBR into those prompts. So the first one we're going to be looking at is to read a book that was published in 2025, and for that I'm going to be reading You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. This is a book that I just recently picked up that I am so excited about. It was very recently published, and look at those beautiful red sprayed edges. This is one that I've heard has a lot of like body horror, and specifically it has a lot of pregnancy body horror, so I don't know if this is going to be like totally my jam or not, but I do love books that are about body horror. This one also piqued my interest because it says it's Alien meets Midsummer, and it says that this one is about an alien invasion in West Virginia. The next one on the list is Vampires, and this is one that I actually struggled to pick like what I wanted to read, because actually, you know, in the future I would love to make an entire video dedicated to reading more vampire books because I'm loving the vampire stuff lately. But for this video and for this prompt, I decided to read Blood on Her Tongue because I was able to get the ebook of this one downloaded on my Kindle from my library, and I also do have access to the audiobook for this one from Libro. And this one is a bit of like a historical vampire thing, but I feel like this is one that's been really popular this year, and I almost feel positive that this one's going to be nominated at the Goodreads Choice Awards. So I wanted to get the chance to read this one before that happens. The next prompt down is actually to read a library book, which I love that Sarah decided to include this prompt on the bingo board because I think using your local library is so important. And even though I actually read several library books during this video, but the one that I decided to read for this prompt is this one called Where Are You Really From? Mostly because I just got this book checked out from my library and I was like, I need to figure out how I can include this in a video. And so this actually worked out perfectly for me to be able to read it. This one is a brand new short story collection that just published very recently. And technically this one is like a multi-genre short story collection, but horror is one of the genres listed on Goodreads, so I decided to include it anyway in this. The next one down is to read a book that's been recommended, and recently my bestie Gav over from Gavin Reads It All, he just did a reading vlog where he ended up reading We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix, and he raved about it, and he was saying that he really enjoyed this one when Grady Hendrix has not been, you know, his favorite author in the past, so it really piqued my interest and I decided to read this book because of my friend Gavin for this one. I am very familiar with a lot of books by Grady Hendrix, and I think this is actually the only book of his, at least his fiction books, that I have not yet read, so I thought maybe now would be the perfect time. And I also didn't even realize my library would have the most beautiful copy of this. Like, I love the black sprayed edges. And then the final prompt on this bingo board is to read a book with animals on the cover. And you know, I technically could have read Blood on Her Tongue for this because I think that one also does have an animal on the cover, but I think she said you can't double up on any of the prompts, and so instead I decided to read The Hounding because this one has a few different dogs on the cover, and this one is like a historical fiction horror book that I've been so curious about because this one is actually taking place in this village in the 1800s where the locals believe that these 5 sisters are turning into dogs. So I feel like this would be like the most perfect thing to read for a book with animals on the cover, you know? Because not only are there animals on the cover, but like the townspeople believe that these girls are turning into animals. So those are the 5 books that I'm planning to read in today's reading vlog. Let me send you back to about a week ago when I got started on the first thing. Hello, I wanted to take a second to update you because I have started reading You Weren't Meant to Be Human. I tried to like match my crew neck to the book, which was pretty easy to do actually because this thing is almost entirely black, but I just noticed there are so many creepy worms like worming through the letters on this cover, and that just, it gives me the chills. I just hit chapter 13 of the book and I'm about 115 pages in, and I've been doing some reading sprints on Patreon this morning. This is actually my first time doing reading sprints since I got back from New York, and I've still been feeling a little bit sick. If you missed one of my recent vlogs from Sleepy Hollow, I'll have it linked down below, but towards the end of the trip, I actually did get sick, and I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold right now, so I'm sorry if I sound a little bit weird, but this book has been so incredibly disturbing so far. You know, I do love body horror. Like, I always describe that body horror is like one of my favorite aspects of horror, but this one in particular is pretty tough because it deals with pregnancy horror, which I don't always love reading about pregnancy in horror. I just feel like that's something that like really gets to me. But in this story, we're following this character named Crane, and Crane is actually a trans main character, and Crane has this guy named Levi who is like not exactly his boyfriend, but it's like somebody that he engages in sexual things with pretty often, and they both belong to this thing that they call the Hive, which it's not exactly clear to me like what exactly the Hive is. It's almost like a culty type of thing, like they both belong to the Hive, they feel accepted by the Hive, but from my understanding, I think the Hive is like a bunch of different worms that are underground in like the Appalachian Mountains, because that's where this book is taking place, which I love the setting, by the way. I think it's so great. But right at the start of this book, it kicks off with this first chapter that's only one sentence. Crane doesn't know this yet, but he's been pregnant for almost 3 months already. Like, what? What a great opening chapter. Like, that just immediately sets the vibes. So I feel like this story has been a little bit like sad, you know, and like hard to read. I mean, this character Crane is talking a lot about, you know, like his experience with being trans and how now that he's finding out that he's pregnant, it's giving him a lot of complicated feelings because like he obviously never wanted children. Like, he talks in great detail about how like he never wanted children, was never comfortable with the idea of having children, and now this is almost like a nightmare of a situation for him to be dealing with. And what's even more scary is that now the Hive is demanding the child. Like, the Hive wants him to have the child, so it doesn't seem like abortion is going to be an option for him, which is terrifying, you know, for me, because like I'm somebody who doesn't want children, so like this sounds like my worst case scenario. So creepy, so scary. I liked that there was this one quote that was talking about the Hive and like what it means to this character when he said, "The Hive saved him. The Hive gave him permission to cut his hair and change his name and shut the fuck up. It's the Hive that gives him a reason to exist, and it's the Hive that puts a hand on the back of his neck and tells him what to do, and God, please tell him what to do. Please take all his higher thinking from him. He doesn't want it." That very much sounds kind of like cultish to me, and I feel like this is like showing an example of like why certain people can like fall into certain things like cults, because it's like they want love and acceptance, and I think that that's really sad, and it's such a heavy subject matter in this book, and there's already been so much talk about this pregnancy, and like the body horror is already like pretty intense. I mean, I'm only in, you know, the beginning of this book, and so we've barely really gotten into it yet. I also, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you, when I started this audiobook, the audiobook freaking jump scared me. In this book, there will be moments where like the Hive is like speaking to him, and in the book, whenever the Hive is speaking to him, it's italicized and it's bold, but on the audiobook, oh my god, they were able to layer it, so like anytime that the Hive is speaking, they like layer it with a bunch of different voices, but the voices are all like slightly off from one another, so it just sounds so creepy. I'll actually see if I can play a clip of the audiobook for you so you can hear what it sounds like. Okay, this was the clip of the Hive that like absolutely jump scared me because I did not expect this.
And Levi takes the key from under the register. Levi fights with the lock for a moment, muttering under his breath before it gives way. The Hive says, with its 1,000 chattering jaws and the buzzing of 1,000 wings. Cherished one. Hello.
No way, dude. Like, the way that they're all like speaking at the same time, but it's layered in a way that's really creepy, but the way they're kind of like speaking in like whispers, but like, I don't know, I don't like it. It was so creepy, and it scared the absolute shit out of me when I first heard it, because I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on at that exact moment on the book, and I was like, oh my god. So that's been fun. I think the audiobook for this is really good. Like, clearly you can hear the production on this. It's just fantastic. But so far, this one has been going very well. You know, I have been annotating it and like underlining some parts, and I feel like right now I could see myself giving this 4 or maybe even 5 stars depending on how the rest of this goes. So I'm just gonna continue reading this book throughout the afternoon. It's only about 2 o'clock right now. It's kind of like a gloomy, rainy day here in Washington. I was talking about this on Patreon, how like it has gotten so cold here so fast. It's only like mid-October right now at the time that I'm filming this, and like the other night it got down to 34 degrees. Like, that is so freezing. It got all frosty outside. And then I also might watch a little bit more of like Gilmore Girls later tonight with my mom. We actually finished watching season 3 of Gilmore Girls last night, and it was was so good. I really liked season 3 of Gilmore Girls. Like, that one has been my favorite so far. So tonight we're probably gonna start on season 4. Hello, I wanted to update because it is so many hours later and I have finished reading You Weren't Meant to Be Human. I did end up making the pork avocado rice bowls that I wanted to make with my dad, and then after that for dessert I decided to make these apple tart things from Trader Joe's that, like, oh my god, they turned out so good. I don't know if I've ever had an apple tart before, at least not like that, but it was so much softer and squishier than I thought it was gonna be, and it was delicious. And then me and my mom watched the first episode of season 4 of Gilmore Girls, and like, oh my god, that first episode was so good. There was already something juicy happening with Luke that I was like, wait a second, what? This book was pretty crazy, man. There was actually one chapter that I was reading kind of around like the halfway point of the book where I literally had to like skim to the end of the chapter because it got a little bit too bloody and gory and disgusting for me. And it's crazy because that scene wasn't even about like Crane's pregnancy specifically. This was definitely the kind of book that made me lose my appetite while I was reading it, and so it probably wasn't the best idea to be reading this like right before dinner. But I also feel like this book was just really sad. Like, I felt so devastated and so sad almost the entire time that I was reading this book. Like, I just had this pit in my stomach, and especially like the last chapter in this book almost made me cry, which was not expected, but like the writing was just really beautiful, and I feel like it just had that ability to like really move me at the end. I also think, oh my god, towards the end, chapter 34 specifically, it's a really short chapter, like it's only like 1 or 2 pages, but that chapter was like absolutely disgusting. Like, I couldn't even finish it. I had to like skim to the end because I was like, oh no. I guess I just get a little bit squeamish when it comes to like certain things, when it comes to like blood and guts and like stuff like that. The way that it was written was so visceral, disgusting. I could picture it way too much. But I also think the writing in this book was actually really beautiful. Like, the writing was so gorgeous. It was so well done. I feel like I really know and understand this character Crane, and I feel like this author did such a wonderful job with talking about like the trans experience, you know, because like this character is trans, the author is trans, and the author is autistic as well, so this is an own voices story in so many ways. And because I'm not trans myself, like, I don't think I can speak on whether the representation was like accurate or not, but it felt really well done and like really authentic to me. And that's part of what made this book so heartbreaking, was like some of the discussion about how difficult it is to be trans in this world, and like the expectations that get placed on you because of that, and the way like the relationship with the parents got strained because of that. There was just so much amazing discussion about that like really got to me. I also think the audiobook continued to jump scare me throughout the rest of the book, because there would be times where I was updating my journal while I was listening to the audiobook, so I wasn't following along like word for word in the text. When that narrator would do the voice of the hive on the audiobook, like, that was some scary shit. It startled me like almost every single time. And I do think this was some of the most gruesome body horror, at least in terms of like dealing with a pregnancy, that I've ever read. So like, wow, kudos to Andrew Joseph White for being able to do that. This is actually the first book that I've ever read from this author, and I'm so glad that it went really well, because I'm probably gonna end up giving this 4 stars. I really like this a lot. This is definitely a book that feels very heavy, and it's a lot, and I would definitely check trigger warnings if you want to read this one. I think tomorrow I might start listening to something on audio while I go through my closet, actually. I've just been meaning to go through my closet and start to like clear things out, you know, because I feel like now is the time of year where I want to go through everything that I have and see if there's anything that I can get rid of. Because as the seasons are changing and it's getting a little bit colder outside, like, I just want to see what things I might have buried in there that I haven't even touched in like over a year. So I think I'm gonna go through my closet tomorrow morning, start something on audio, and I will update you once I start the next thing.
Baby, now we're strangers, just two people in a crowded room. I don't even know your name yet.
is now the next afternoon. I have had such a busy and productive morning. I mean, as you saw, I was clearing out a lot of my closet. I actually have 2 trash bags full of clothes that I'm going to donate, either to like my local Goodwill or probably Value Village. And it feels so good to get rid of so many things, especially because, you know, like I keep all of my hoodies on the back of my door, and I just had so many hoodies that like I haven't touched in like over a year probably. I also had like so many sweatpants that I haven't worn in probably over a year. I'm also a really big hoarder of like a big baggy t-shirt. Like I have so many shirts that are just like big oversized shirts, and I was like, I don't need all of these. Like I just had way too many. So it does feel really good. Like it's something that I love to do every single time the season changes, but especially like as we get into like the fall and winter time, I love to go through my closet to try and figure out like, okay, what do I actually wear and what have I not touched all year long? Because I feel like it's definitely a huge sign to me where like these shirts that I should have been wearing in like the summertime, you know, like the crop tops, like if I'm not wearing those in the summer, then I'm probably like never gonna wear them, you know? I've also been doing a lot of laundry this morning. Like I washed all of my bed sheets. I also ended up taking down the leaves from behind my bed. They're like those fake dangly leaves that I have behind my bed, but I accidentally fucked up the leaves because the other night when I was pulling a pillow out from behind my head, I accidentally grabbed one of the strands of leaves and I yanked it really hard, and then all the leaves came down. It was just looking really bad and really messed up, so instead I decided to put the dangly lights up behind my bed. But anyway, it's been a very productive day so far, and I've been listening to The Hounding on audio, and I already got 140 pages into the book. I'm already like 60% of the way through this one on audio, because this one is on the shorter side. It's only like 223 pages. You know, I was a little bit nervous to read this one because this one is quite the like historical kind of horror, which doesn't always work for me. You know, this one takes place in the 1800s. The book actually describes itself as Crucible meets the Virgin Suicides. The reason why I wanted to read this book is because it's a story about these 5 sisters who are living in this small village, and people believe that they are turning into dogs. And I was like, that sounds like such a fun premise. And you know, so far the story is not quite like as weird as I was hoping it would be. We follow from the point of view of like 5 different people that live in this town, but we're not following from the perspective of any of the sisters themselves, which I do feel like could be commentary in its own way about how like women have stories told about them that might or might not be true, or like we only view women through the lens of like people they know, but we never actually hear from the women themselves. So I actually do like that about this, but I like that this is not the only weird thing that's been happening in their town. I mean, as the description says, it says that their village is steeped in the uncanny, from strange creatures that wash up on the riverbank to ravens gathering on the roofs of people about to die. So this town is pretty used to like weird things going on, but then it says some of the locals start to hear barking. It says one claims that he saw the sisters transform before his very eyes, and even though this is a time where like witchcraft is like starting to die out, or like women are getting accused of being witches less than they were before, but it says all of these narratives point to the same ultimate conclusion, that something isn't right in Little Nettlebed and the sisters will be the ones to pay for it. I thought this was really powerful too at the end of the premise when it says the Hounding considers whether in any age it might be safer to be a dog than an unusual young girl. I was like, damn, like that is so powerful. It's giving Man's Best Friend by Sabrina Carpenter. But that's so true, the way that like sometimes maybe dogs are safer than young women. Like what a scary thought. I also feel like this is one of those books that are reminding us that like men's egos are so fragile, you know, because I feel like a lot of these men are just starting these rumors about the girls because they don't like them, or they find them to be weird, or like the girls aren't smiling at them. It's definitely giving me that kind of a vibe where like the men are just like the worst, and because we are reading from the point of view of some of the men in the town, that feeling is just like extra heightened. But as far as the writing style in this book, like I really do like the writing. I feel like historical writing doesn't always work for me, and like sometimes it can feel a little bit boring, to be honest. But for the most part, this one is keeping me really engaged, and I actually kind of agree with my friend Matt. He actually gave this book 5 stars, and with his review on Goodreads, he said that this one reminds him a lot of the writing of Otessa Moshfegh. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm saying that author's name right, but I definitely agree that this does feel like something that maybe she could have written. I mean, I haven't read her book Lapvana, but I feel like this might have a similar vibe to something like that. I don't know, right now it feels like this book could either be like a 3-star or a 4-star 4-star depending on how the rest of it goes. I am enjoying the writing so far. I just don't really feel connected to like any of the characters in this book, and I don't know if that's the point, but I also think because we're following like 5 different people in the town, like they're all so interchangeable to me and like one-dimensional characters, like none of them are really standing out from the rest. But I do like reading about these sisters. I like reading about the folklore of the town and like what people are thinking. I like the feminist themes in this one. I'm really excited for later tonight because me and my sister have plans. We're gonna go out to dinner together, and then I think we're also going to stop by Spirit Halloween because I have a few things from Spirit Halloween that I need to get. I'm also gonna stop by the library to drop off some of my library books and then also pick up a few holds. And yeah, it should be a good rest of the afternoon. Hopefully I can finish reading The Hounding while I'm doing all of the things. It's the next morning, but I wanted to update you because last night I went to Spirit Halloween with my sister, as you saw, and I ended up getting a few things. One of the things that I'm so excited about is this cute shirt. It says, "Let's make a slasher movie," and it's like a Scream shirt. Is this not the cutest thing? I couldn't resist. I just had to get it while I was there. And then I also did decide to get a Halloween costume for this year because I don't always dress up for Halloween, but I saw this skeleton romper and I was like, is this not the cutest thing ever? Like, I feel like I would really just love to wear this on Halloween, and I do have the fishnets that I could wear with it. So I decided to get this one, and I'm so excited to wear this one on Halloween. But anyway, I did want to update you because I finished listening to the audiobook for The Hounding. I actually read most of this yesterday afternoon, and then this morning I only had like 30 minutes left of the audiobook, so I finished listening to it while I was curling my hair. I feel like this is a book that I can recognize that it's like very well written and very interesting. I just think I wanted it to get a little bit more weird. I mean, for a book about, you know, these girls possibly turning into dogs and like the villagers thinking that they're turning into dogs, I just thought the book would be a little bit more about that, I guess. And it's not like it's the kind of story where like it's so open-ended and ambiguous that like you never know if they're turning into dogs, because I would have been really upset if that's the direction we went in. But I still thought most of the story would actually be about that when it wasn't really about that. I will say though, the ending of this book was my absolute favorite part of this book. Like, I thought the ending was so well done. It kind of like gave me like full body chills. I was like, oh man. So the ending of the book was definitely worth it, and it was by far my favorite part of the book. But I still don't know if I'm gonna give this anything higher than like a 3-star or maybe like a 3.5 star. It's definitely gonna fall somewhere into that range for me. And I think it's mostly just due to like my personal taste with like what I look for in a horror book. This one definitely had really good writing, and like I really loved the unique synopsis of like villagers thinking that these sisters are turning into dogs. Like, I thought it was really unique in that way, but I just wanted a little bit more from this. I feel like the story could have been even better maybe if we actually did get the perspective of one of the sisters, but I do understand that it was probably a very intentional choice for the story to not be told from the sister's perspective, so like I do respect that. But anyway, today I need to film a video for my Patreon. I'm actually going to be filming a video today that's like trying to predict the Goodreads Choice Awards nominations. I think it's going to be a really fun thing to do because I've never actually attempted to predict which books are going to get nominated before, but I'm only going to be doing it for the categories that I'm super familiar with. So like I'm only going to be trying to predict the horror category, romance, thriller, and then also maybe fiction. I think I'm going to try to do fiction. So that should be a fun video. I'll have it linked down below if you want to check it out. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be up to today. And then later tonight, I do have a movie night on my Patreon for the movie The Woman in Cabin 10, which I'm really excited to see, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the book for The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. But I am excited to see how it adapts into a film. And so that's going to be happening later tonight. So I don't know when I'm going to pick up the next thing for this video, but once I do, I'll let you know.
Only when you're not around, but I'm not afraid to chase you. I'll find you in the neon lights, walking over to you with a drink in my hand.
Okay, hello. It has been a couple of days, but I wanted to update you because I've been reading We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix, and it has been the rainiest day today. It is just dumping buckets outside today, and it is just like the perfect cozy October Sunday. I'm just really loving the vibes today, and I'm also doing reading sprints on Patreon right now, but I did want to let you know that I'm now 152 pages into this one, and I've been reading this one today only with my eyeballs, and that's how you know it's good, because I'm not relying on the audiobook to get through this. It's actually really like keeping me engaged the entire time. We're following this woman named Chris, and back in the 1990s, she was the lead guitarist of this rock band. It says that was until the lead singer Terry Hunt embarked on a solo career and rocketed to stardom, and he left all of his bandmates to rot. So now the story's taking place about 30 years later when Chris is working at the front desk of like a Best Western motel. And the first chapter of this book was kind of hilarious because she's dealing with like a really annoying situation at the hotel where like this guy is just walking around naked and like pissing everywhere on the floor and just like making a scene, and she kind of like has to deal with it at the hotel, and she's thinking about how her life just went so off the rails and like this is not what she wanted for herself. I feel like the story just like immediately gripped me with that first chapter because I was like, what the heck am I even reading right now? But I also like how this story is being told, you know, in the present day when this is happening where she's working at this hotel, but then it's also being told in like flashbacks, so you kind of get to see like what happened with this band and like how they first got together and like all the drama that ensued and like why they ended up breaking up in the first place. But like the premise says, it says she's tired, she's broke, and she's unhappy. Then one day everything changes. A shocking act of violence turns her life upside down, and she begins to suspect that Terry sabotaged more than just the band. So now all of this crazy stuff is happening to her, and she's starting to believe that Terry is behind it, even though Terry is like the only one who was successful out of the band, and he was like the one who wanted to be a star, and he like left them all behind, you know? So like there's some drama and gossip between this group that I find really interesting. I saw a lot of other reviewers say that this book is kind of like Daisy Jones and the Six, but if it was horror. And so far I do have to agree, but I feel like I would say that about any book that involves like a rock band where there's some drama. I feel like anything would be compared to Daisy Jones and the Six. But I do love the way that this book is being written so far. Like I am really connecting to Chris as a protagonist, and it's frustrating that like something really scary and awful will happen to her, and then when she goes to talk about it with like the other band members, a lot of them are like doubting her or not believing her, and it's like one of those stories where like you're so frustrated on her behalf because nobody seems to be experiencing the same things that she's going through. I feel like I'm reaching a point now in the story where I'm about 150 pages in, and like the story feels like it's starting to slow down a little bit, so I'm hoping that it picks up the pacing soon, because this one is about like 330 pages long, so I'm like a little bit less than halfway through it. But I am really enjoying this one so far. Like this feels like something that I could give 4 stars, or maybe even like a 4.5 or 5 depending on how the rest goes. I mean, I have talked about this before, how I realized that I've never given Grady Hendrix a 5-star before. I've read so many of his books now. This is actually one of the only books from Grady Hendrix that I haven't yet read, but I think my favorite books that I've ever read from Grady Hendrix were actually like his short stuff that he wrote for those Amazon Prime short stories. I'm thinking about Ankle Snatchers and The Blanks specifically. Like I loved those 2 short stories, but then out of all the novels that I've read from him, I think my favorite is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I think is definitely my favorite, and I also really liked My Best Friend's Exorcism. Everything else that I've read from him I thought was like pretty okay or like not that great, but so far it does feel like this one's gonna be ranked a little bit higher for me compared to some of his other stuff, so like that's a good sign. It is now the next afternoon, but I wanted to update you because I just finished reading We Sold Our Souls. Also, look at how crazy that my shirt like perfectly matches the vibes of this book. I did not plan that, but I am sad to let you know that I kind of have mixed feelings about this one. Probably feels more like a 3-star read. I really think the second half of this book started to go downhill for me because I was losing interest in the plot. I mean, for example, there's like a road trip element towards the end of this book that was just kind of boring for me. I just don't know if I'm the perfect audience for this because I do see the appeal with this story, and I think there are a lot of really great moments in this book. I mean, gosh, in the second half, there was this one scene that was so horrific and gory and graphic that I was like, oh, and it was like right before I ate dinner last night. I was like, holy shit, that was a lot. I mean, Grady Hendrix is known for writing some of the most like grotesque and like disgusting things in his horror books. There's still this scene from My Best Friend's Exorcism that I still think about to this day. So it's not like I wasn't expecting that, and I think that actually made this book stronger and like more interesting, because that was one of the only moments in this book that really felt like true horror to me. I know yesterday I was saying that this kind of reminded me of like Daisy Jones and the Six because of the whole like rock and roll vibes, but I also think there were some elements of this book that kind of reminded me of like K-pop Demon Hunters. Not in the sense that they had like similar plots or anything, but just kind of with like the overall themes of both of these stories and the way that both of these stories talk about music and how music can be the thing that connects us and saves us. I don't know, I could pull a lot of similar themes from K-pop Demon Hunters in this one, but obviously this book is more about like rock and roll music as opposed to K-pop. It's so funny too because I was finishing up reading this book just like laying here in my bed, and my bed faces the front window of the house, and a UPS driver came up to the house as I was reading that one scene with the UPS driver. If you know, you know. There's like some really intense scenes in this book that specifically involve a UPS driver, and so I was just like, ugh. It just added to the overall eeriness for me, you know? Something else I wanted to say about this too is that I do think it's really impressive how Grady Hendrix is able to write such a convincing and realistic female protagonist. I think that's actually something he's done really well with a lot of his books, because sometimes it just really rubs me the wrong way when a male author will try to write a female protagonist and have a lot of like feminist themes in their books. Like, it doesn't always work for me, but I feel like Grady Hendrix is especially talented. It's not something that a lot of male authors do well, so kudos to Grady Hendrix for that. But I think I have to give this one 3 stars overall, even though I really did like following Chris as a character. I love books that are about music. Even though I'm not that big into rock and roll myself, I still do like books that talk about music and lyrics and the way that music is able to, you know, connect us. But I also think because the second part of this book just really lost me with the plot, I just wasn't as big of a fan of the direction the plot ended up going in, and I found myself skimming a lot of pages towards the end. So unfortunately, I thought this one could be a new favorite from Grady Hendrix, but I think it's still gonna be ranked pretty mid for me among all of his books. But I am glad that I read this one, and I do think this was like the perfect book to be reading in the month of October. Anyway, tonight I'm going to be going over to my sister's apartment. She asked if I wanted to come over because she's gonna be making this like girl dinner charcuterie board type of thing tonight with these mac and cheese bites, and I was like, yeah. Hello, it's about time that I check in with you because there's been so many things going on. We watched the Mariners game because, you know, the Mariners almost made it into the World Series. And, you know, because I live in the Washington area, that's like a really big deal over here, especially because the Mariners, as far as I know, I don't think they've ever been in the World Series. So it was a little bit devastating to watch them lose that baseball game last night. But also, like, I'm just really happy that my team, the Dodgers, are going to the World Series. I know it's like I've lived in Washington for the last 10 years, but I was born and raised in South Bay, Los Angeles. So, like, that's my team. But anyway, last night was kind of like a disaster because, you know, my favorite jeans, like the jeans that I wear all the freaking time, they ended up tearing on my leg. I mean, don't get me wrong, those jeans do have a lot of rips already on the jeans, but the jeans tore in a way where like my entire right leg was basically like exposed, and I was like, oh no. Because earlier this week, you know, as you saw, I had just gone through my closet and I got rid of a bunch of other jeans because those were my favorite jeans, and I was like, I don't even wear any other jeans. And then of course I ruined my only pair of jeans. And so I decided that I was gonna get rid of those too because like I don't know anything about sewing and like how to fix something like that. And I also like never ever buy new jeans. Like, that's just not who I am. And so this afternoon, Rachel was like, no, we need to go back to the mall and we need to get you like a new pair of jeans. And I got a new pair of jeans, and aren't these ones so cute? Okay, you can't really see them all the way, but like, I swear they're so cute and they fit perfect and they're actually really cozy. So I got new jeans, and I also ended up going to Value Village, which is like, you know, a thrift store that's kind of like Goodwill. I went to Value Village afterwards and I found another pair of jeans for only $10 that I really loved, and they looked brand new because they still had the sticker on the front pocket. And so I'm just really glad that I finally have two pairs of jeans that I'm really, really obsessed with, because I don't need more than two pairs of jeans, you know, like, I'm good. I also just got in the mail, oh my god, I have to show you. I bought a new vlogging camera, and this was 100% influenced by my friend Gavin. When we just took our trip to New York, he had this camera and I was like, what is that? It's so cute. It's so small. And this thing actually films in beautiful 4K quality. Like, this is such a high quality camera, and it's so small and so cute. This is the DJI, the Osmo Pocket 3. And so Gavin was like, you need to get this camera, because I was literally telling Gavin about how I've been thinking about getting a new vlogging camera because I'm not really happy with the way that my vlog footage is turning out. It's just not looking as HD as I want it to, and especially with like the stabilization, and this one has incredible stabilization. Like, I cannot wait to start filming with this. I'm probably gonna end up finishing filming this vlog with like my usual cameras, but then the next vlog that you see from me, I'll probably be trying to film it on this, and I'm so excited and also so nervous to try and like figure out a new camera, but it's a very exciting time. I just can't get over how tiny and small this thing is. I get a little bit like shy in public. Like, I don't want to be like filming myself when I'm in public, or I don't want it to be obvious that I'm filming myself. And the usual camera that I bring with me when I go vlogging in public is like huge. It's a giant camera. It's what I'm filming on right now, or else I would show you. This is gonna be such a game changer for me, and I feel like this is gonna make me fall in love with vlogging all over again. But anyway, that was a lot of talking. I wanted to let you know that I have started reading Where Are You Really From? And I'm so glad that I decided to start reading this one this afternoon, because this has been going so well. I do think that it is a little bit hard to like pitch this book as horror, because I don't think it's exactly horror. It kind of reminds me of Cursed Bunny, actually, in the way that it's kind of hard to determine what genre this would fall into, because it does feel a little bit more like literary at times, but it also just kind of has like those weird undertones that you only find in horror. And so I am just absolutely obsessed with this so far, and I think if you like Cursed Bunny, I do think this would also be right up your alley. In this story, it's a collection of 6 really short stories, and then there's one novella at the end of this book. And so far, I have read 4 of the really short stories at the top. I've read the short stories Carrot Legs, Mail Order Love, You Put a Rabbit on Me, and Featured Background so far. I am loving the vibes of each one of these short stories, and I feel like they're all really different and unique, but they all kind of have common themes in a way that really interests me. The first short story in this is called Carrot Legs, and that was one that I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed that one. It was actually about like these young teenage girls. It says 2 teenage girls meticulously plan how to kill and cook their downstairs neighbor. And that one just had some really great commentary about like beauty standards in Taiwan. But then also, I feel like so many of these stories have had this gay undertone, and I love how a lot of the stories are about these women who are just like obsessed with each other. I've noticed that that's like a common theme in these stories, and that's something that I'm really loving. The second short story was called Mail Order Love, and that was one that I gave 5 stars. Oh my god, I loved the second short story. And it says a mail order bride from Taiwan is picked up in a cardboard box and sent via express shipping to California, where her much older husband awaits her. That story definitely reminded me of Annie Bot, actually, which is like one of my favorite sci-fi books. And so that one was my favorite so far out of everything that I've read. And then the third story was called You Put a Rabbit in Me. It says that one is about an American au pair who moves to Paris to find herself, only to find her actual French doppelganger. I mean, we all know how much I love reading about doppelgangers, and so that one was especially fun and so cool. I actually ended up giving that one 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 stars, because I do think it was a little bit long. Like, that was the only one that felt just a little bit too long for me. But the concept in that one was so unique. It was so fun. And I love how a lot of these stories are like weirdly sexual, but in a way that like really works for me. And then the fourth story that I just read was called Featured Background. And this one was actually kind of hard for me to like wrap my head around. It says a father reunites with his estranged daughter in unusual circumstances as a background actor on the set of her film. That one was kind of strange, but the audio experience was so cool because they did this really cool like muffled voices sound on the audiobook that was so amazing. But I only ended up giving that story 3 out of 5 stars. It was my lowest rated out of the 4 that I've read so far, but I am so impressed with this collection of short stories so far. Like, I am so engaged. I'm so gripped. I feel like all of these stories are kind of like weird and eerie, and that's what makes me feel like it really does fit under the horror umbrella, even though I don't know if I would call this collection of stories horror, but this has been so fantastic so far. Like, I'm really glad that I decided to read this one today. I also have been listening to this one on audio a little bit on my Spotify because I just got all of my Spotify hours renewed. But anyway, I think for the rest of the night, I'm gonna continue to listen to this one on audio, and I think I'm gonna spend some time like figuring out this new camera and like figuring out all the things that I need to know about it. Okay, hi, hello. It is now the next morning. Last night, I spent so much time, you know, like trying to figure out my new camera. I did come across a few like troubleshooting things that I thought were like really difficult to figure out. I mean, the main thing was that I could not get the files from that camera to like open in my Sony Vegas, which is like my editing software. And so I was kind of like freaking out for a while and trying to like troubleshoot that and come up with all these different solutions. And I eventually figured it out. It was actually like there was like some settings on the camera itself for like the file type that it was filming in. So luckily I was able to figure out everything, and I've been kind of like trying to use it just to practice using it and see what angles I can get with that new camera. And like, oh my god, when I tell you, I cannot believe how nice this new camera is going to be. So I can't wait to vlog on it tomorrow. I mean, I am going to be continuing the vlog with my regular camera today because I don't want to like change cameras mid-vlog. I feel like that would be very chaotic. But I did want to let you know that last night I did finish reading Where Are You Really From? I had the last 3 short stories remaining. I read the story Happy Endings, and then I had the Dollhouse, and then the final one is a novella, which is kind of longer than the rest of them, and it's called Casualties of Art. And unfortunately, I do think the last 3 short stories in this collection were some of my least favorite out of all of the ones that I just read. I mean, Happy Endings, I literally gave that one 2 out of 5 stars. Like, I just was not a big fan of that one. And in fact, the only note that I took on that book, this guy wants to have sex with everything and he's awful. That's literally the only note I made about that story. In my opinion, it was very like forgettable and just like whatever. But the next one was called The Dollhouse, and I feel like that one was this really interesting story about this mother and this daughter. That one had really good commentary about like immigration and just like a lot of different feminist themes, and I just really liked the way that that one was written. But I do think some of The Dollhouse went like a little bit over my head, so I only gave that one 3 out of 5 stars. Like, I liked the concept and I liked what that author was trying to do there, but it wasn't my favorite in the collection. And then the last one, Casualties of Art, that one's the novella length, so that one does take up a good chunk of the end of the story. And sadly, this one was another miss for me. I think I'm gonna give that one 2 stars as well, because my only notes that I took on this last story was the main character guy is so annoying, and this one felt a little bit long. And I mean, obviously it felt a little bit long because it is the longest story in this collection, but I'm also like, did it need to be that long? I don't think so. So now I'm kind of torn on like what I want to rate this collection overall, because I feel like I had the most success with the first 3 short stories in here. I only had 1 short story that I gave 5 stars, and that was Mail Order Love. And then I had 2 that I gave 4 stars, 2 that I gave 3 stars, and 2 that I gave 2 stars. I feel like this always happens anytime I read like a short story collection. Most of the time, there will only be like a select few that really work for me, and then the other ones won't, so the average rating will come down a little bit for me. But I do think this is one that I personally would still highly recommend, just because the quality of the writing was so good. And I feel like this author, even when like some of the short stories didn't necessarily work for me, I think this author has such an incredible writing style, and I just really vibed with most of these. I know that this is actually the author of that other book called Disorientation, which I have not yet read, but I'm actually going to be bumping it way up on my TBR after how much I loved the writing in this. And I feel like more people need to read this one, because when I looked on Goodreads, this only has like 300 ratings and reviews right now. And I mean, I know this book just came out this year, but I'm like, this is a really impressive collection of short stories in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would really like this. I'm so glad that I finally read this one, and now all we have left to read is the vampire book. I think I'm gonna try to go to the park and read today, because today is supposed to be like one of the last days that we're not getting rain for like the next like 10 days, so I really want to make the most of it, and I want to go like read outdoors today, even though it might be a little bit too cold to do that. I mean, it's like 49 degrees right now as we speak, so I might just have to wear my turtleneck like under my crew neck to keep me warm, but we should be good to go.
Headspace, been weaker, it's been waiting for the right day. Like the right day ever comes, now it's Friday, and nothing's changed. Mistakes that everyone is making, but I can't change. I'm stuck in reverse like an old Benz. Forgot to tap it up. Now I long for another day where things fall into place.
almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but I wanted to update you because I've started reading Blood on Her Tongue, and I just hit page 130 out of 350, so according to my Kindle, I'm about 38% of the way through this one. And so far, the story's going well. I actually realized this morning when I was on the way to the park, I was like, why does this author's name sound so familiar? Like, I definitely think that I've read something by this author before, and I realized that this is actually the same author as that book, My Darling Dreadful Thing, which I read earlier this year, and I think I gave that one 2 stars. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of that one, so then I was like, oh no, because I was like, what if I just don't really connect with this author's writing, or like, what if it's not for me? But so far, this one is actually going really well, and I'm really invested, and I think the main reason for that is because at the center of the story, you're following a story about these 2 sisters, and this one actually takes place in the Netherlands in the year 1887, so it is very, very historical. But it says Lucy's twin sister Sarah is unwell, and like something's going on with this girl. Like, she's like mumbling a lot, she's refusing to eat, and just like a lot of things are going on with her. And it says the doctor has diagnosed her with temporary insanity caused by a fever of the brain. And so the beginning of this book is a lot about trying to figure out like what's going on with her sister and like why she's behaving so weird and acting so weird. And it says then the worst happens. Sarah's behavior takes a turn for the strange. She becomes angry and hungry. So, you know, she's like a freaking vampire. Like, they're trying to figure out that she's a vampire. And because this takes place in the 1800s, it just has that extra layer of like the gothic writing and like the eeriness to it. And it's actually really working for me in this so far. I love that this book is already having, you know, so many quotes, like so many like feminist quotes about what it was like to be a woman during this time period. Like when she says, a lady can't say such a thing unless she wants to be thought crude or unwomanly or even worse, mad. I thought that was a really good one. I also thought there was another really good quote when she said, is there anything more dangerous to a woman than to be beautiful when weeping? And another like line that just shows like how awful and annoying the men were during this time period is when he says, I'm a gentleman, Lucy, but I'll be damned if I don't get what I am owed. Like, men thinking that they are owed literally anything, so annoying. But also like some of the horror in this book has already been written in like such a grotesque and disgusting way. Like one quote when it said the eye itself had burst like a soft-boiled egg. Oh God, the visuals on that, so gross. So yeah, so far the story is going well. I actually really do like the feel of the writing, and I like that we're following these 2 sisters. I actually don't even mind the time period because usually I find myself getting bored with books that take place, you know, like in the 1800s. I did bring my other camera with me so I can like test out getting some shots here at the park. So I might try to shoot some B-roll on this camera while I'm here today just to see how it turns out. I also think while I listen to this one on audio, I think I'm gonna like walk around the park because it is pretty cold today, and just sitting here I'm like getting a little bit cold, so I think I need to warm up by like going on a walk.
So if you're down, I'll be down. Pack your bags, fill them up. We can go tonight, take a flight to a higher ground. How does that sound? How does that sound?
Okay, hello, I am now back home from the park. Dude, when I tell you, the second that I was leaving that park, like as soon as I got back in the car from my walk, it started raining, and now it's just been downpouring all afternoon, and like we're supposed to be having a bit of a storm rolling in, and it definitely feels like it's here now. So I could not have timed my little park adventure any better, because if I had stayed like just 10 more minutes, I would have got dumped on during my walk. Also, oh my gosh, wasn't the footage that I got on the new camera for that B-roll that I just shot, wasn't it so beautiful? And I was really surprised how like steady so many of the shots are while I was walking. I'm really excited at all of the possibilities with this new camera because I think it's going to improve my vlogs a lot. But anyway, I wanted to update you because I finished listening to Blood on Her Tongue. I liked this so much more than I was expecting to. You know, I think after I realized that this is from the same author as My Darling Dreadful Thing, I was like, oh no, like I got kind of nervous just because I don't always love the like historical kind of like gothic horror. Like that's not always my thing, but apparently today I was just like really in the mood to read something like this. And I think because this one was about vampires specifically, like I feel like this was a kind of cool and like unique take on vampires. Or maybe like unique is the wrong word, because I guess I've read stuff like this before, but like this specific story I think really interested me because of the way that this is about two sisters, and because of the way that this girl is like so protective of her sister. I just really connected to her as a character. Like I loved this one quote when she said she knew instinctively and hotly that she would destroy anyone who dared to hurt her sister. She would rip out their throat and desecrate their body, then dance on their grave and gladly burn in hell for it. And I was like, yeah, bestie, like same. I get that that like protectiveness of your sister. And so I really connected to this character for those reasons. But also, like, some of the horror in this book was so gruesome and like so well written. Like, this is exactly what I love about vampire fiction. Some of it was almost like, whoa, I had to like skim a little bit ahead in the audiobook because I was like, I don't want to hear that. It was very gory with the like sucking of the blood, and like those kinds of details were like pretty intense. But I also really loved the direction this story went in. So I'm actually really impressed with this. And I really liked the ending of this one too. Like, I thought the ending was like so perfect and so eerie. I don't know why, like, it doesn't feel quite on the same level as like my other 4 stars that I've given recently. So like part of me wants to give it a 3.5, but like it's a really high 3.5, if that makes sense. And I'm so glad that I decided to read this one for the vampire book, because I don't know if I ever would have like really gravitated towards picking this one up on my own. So I'm glad that I just decided to give this one a shot and like check it out for my library, and I'm so glad that it went well. I completed the bingo on the bingo board. I had a lot of fun doing this video. I hope that you had a lot of fun watching, and thank you so much to Sarah from Wicked Reading for making this really fun bingo board. I would love to know, you know, if you would like to see me do a round 2 in the future, like maybe before the end of the year, I could try to accomplish another line on this bingo board if that's something you'd like to see from me. Because this horror bingo challenge goes for an entire year, I could make a whole series of 5 videos like trying to get every single line of a bingo on this board if that's something that intrigues you. So let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I read in this video. Please do let me know what you think about them, and we can discuss in the comments. And thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!